A Tale of Two Retirements. Mr. Tax to the Max versus Mrs. Iva Lot More. And in actuality, even though those are the names I'm going to call these people, they have been illustrated with numerous people that I've helped convert from Tax to the Max to Mrs. Iva Lot More. So in this episode, I'm going to address the question, how do some retirees end up with double and even triple the net spendable retirement income? Get ready. So I'm Doug Andrew, and I've been helping thousands of people optimize assets and minimize taxes and empower their wealth so that in retirement, they will not outlive their money. And many of these strategies that I'm going to share in stories, so this is one of 5 episodes where I'm giving actual stories, illustrations of how we have helped people save unnecessary tax. And so as I go about doing this, this is really based on true stories and hundreds of clients that we've helped perform what we call strategic rollouts. So here we go. So I've been very blessed in my career to have authored thus far 12 best-selling books. And I've spoken over 90,000 hours to audiences throughout America. I'm 70 years old now, and I'm so passionate. I will never retire. Retire means put out of use. I don't want to be put out of use. I hope someday I die on stage, teaching an audience. And so I've also written many newspaper articles. This one was titled The Absolute Best Way to Save for Retirement, and we deemed it was better to put actually a chart in there because a picture, like 1,000 words. And so on this chart in this editorial article, it was titled Comparison of Various Retirement Planning Vehicles. And you maybe can't read this, but I'll just simply give you the concept of it, and then I'm going to prove it to you here. So I listed features over here on the left, such as, is it taxed currently at tax rates on the money that you're earning or whatever? Are the earnings in this investment taxed? Are the withdrawals that you take out taxed? Is there a death proceed when you die in this account that has tax advantages? And are there limits on the amount you can contribute to these types of accounts? Does it affect maybe how much security you're going to receive? Is it subject to the health care tax, which the Obamacare tax, that's an extra, 3.5%? Things like that. And so I listed traditional IRAs or 401ks. And all of a sudden, people who read the article went, ooh, wow, that's not as good as I thought it was because, you get to put in pre-tax contributions. You don't have to pay tax on any gains, but now when you take out the money, it's taxed. When you die, it's taxed. So people thought they were going to be in a lower tax bracket, and they're not if they save very much. And so it's the worst place to leave money behind when you die, especially to non-spousal heirs. And that's what most CPAs tell you to do, is to stretch it out. And then when they finally come and learn at one of my advanced continuing education classes for CPAs, they go, oh, wow, I've been giving bad advice. Yep. And it will cause many people to lose some of their Social Security benefits, and it's subject to the healthcare tax and what have you. Some people say Roths. Roths are the cat's meow. Well, a Roth, if you believe taxes are going to be higher in the future, they are a step in the right direction. If you've watched very many of my episodes, you'll quickly learn I've never owned an IRA or 401k, never will, and I've never owned a Roth IRA or 401k. My favorite vehicle, over here on the right, has the 2 benefits of a Roth and several additional benefits Roths will never have. So yeah, on Roths, basically, you pay tax up front on the current money you're contributing with after-tax dollars, but it grows tax-free and you can access the money tax-free. If you think taxes are going to be higher in the future, a Roth can generate as much as 50% more, or the same amount of income without outliving your money compared to an IRA or 401k, you would run out of money. Based upon the same amount, the same rate of return, but because of taxes being higher in the future, okay? A non-qualified annuity. A lot of Americans put money into tax-deferred annuities. And they go down this list and they go, oh, yeah, that's only tax deferred when I start accessing money. Now I have to pay tax LIFO, last in, first out. All the interest I'm earning comes out first, so I have to pay the maximum tax. And so that's the only benefit. You contribute after tax dollars, but it's taxed as soon as you start accessing money. The one over on the right is my favorite. And it's a max-funded, tax-advantaged insurance contract structured correctly and funded properly. And I prefer a max-funded indexed universal life insurance contract structured correctly. If it is, it then is qualified, or it can be deemed a LASERFund, which is the title of my most recent best-selling book that's been flying off of our warehouse shelves. And we just have now the new 8th edition that is totally current to the moment. And I'm going to show you how you can claim a free copy of this book at the end of this episode, so stay with me. But you'll learn that this, you contribute with after-tax dollars like a Roth. You accumulate it tax-free, you can access it tax-free, but there's no limit to your contributions. If you wanted to put in 100 or 300,000 and you designed it to do that, you can do that. You can't contribute that much to a Roth. What about if you need money? I can put in 300,000 and pull out 200,000 4 days later if I need to. There's no 10% penalty. I don't have to wait till I'm 59 and a half like you have to with these other types of plans. And if I could put in 300,000 and I don't, I put in 30, I can make up the other 270,000 anytime I want. With this one, you can use indexing, so you get to benefit when the market goes up, but you don't lose a dime when the market crashes due to that downturn in the market, okay? And if I die, and if I died right now at age 70, every million in the LASERFund would blossom to about 2 million instantly and transfer tax-free to my wife, my kids, my grandkids, a church, a charity. None of these will do that. And people say, well, how much does that cost? Well, nothing's free, but it doesn't cost me anything. It's being paid for with a minuscule portion of tax that these people shell out unnecessarily. I'm just redirecting tax. And it doesn't affect the Social Security because it's not earned passive or portfolio income. Those are the only 3 types of income Americans pay income on their tax return. And same thing with the health care tax. You don't have to pay that 3.5%. So folks, when I teach, and in the book I'm going to gift you, you'll see this in the 14th chapter on this side. It's actually 2 books in one. This is the left brain side with the charts and graphs. This is the right brain side with all the stories, 62 of them. And so in chapter 14, I sort of summarize that a lot of retirees, they have a lot of their money. In fact, they're way too top heavy, usually in this purple bucket with yet to be taxed IRAs and 401ks, invested in the market, and they begin to realize that's not where you should have your money at retirement. It might have been okay for retirement planning, but at retirement planning is totally different. Some people have real estate income. Some people have a pension because they taught school or were a police officer. Some people rely on, an annuity or a Social Security, or maybe any kind of a benefit that comes from service. This is the most underutilized, and it's the green tax-free bucket. Roths could fit under here, but I've already told you I've never owned one, never will. Municipal bonds, people don't buy those anymore because municipalities are filing bankruptcy left and right. They're not as safe as they used to be, and they're low yielding. My favorite, as I've told you, is an MFTA, Max Funded Tax Advantage Insurance Contract, structured correctly, funded properly, and then it's deemed a LASERFund. Why do I teach this? Because I want to help people, perhaps you, roll money out. This is not a rollover. A rollover is going from the frying pan to the fire. It's taking money out of 401ks and rolling them over to IRAs and continuing to defer till you're age 72, and then taking RMDs, required minimum distributions. That's actually the worst advice, tax-wise, for most Americans. And I can't believe how many accountants say, oh yeah, just take RMDs. You'll save tax this year, but they don't add up how much tax you will pay over your lifetime. You'll be shocked. So most people, when they learn, they want to do a rollout and get the taxes over and done with sooner than later and get it down here to the tax-free bucket. And at the end of the day, when they die, it usually reimburses many-fold the money you paid in tax. So you're not out anything, especially down to your spouse and your heirs. So I would recommend at retirement, no more than 30% of your income come from that one. And most students of mine, they don't want any coming out of that bucket by the time they retire. If you own real estate, I would say don't rely on any more than 30% of your income to come from you having tenants, okay? Just be careful. And a lot of people are tired of being landlords and all the headaches. I can show you solutions to that to equal or exceed the rental income you get from the same amount of asset, okay? 0 to 80%, depending upon your risk tolerance, could come from guaranteed type sources. But here's the most underutilized. I'd recommend that 40 to 60% of your income not even show up on the front page of your 1040 tax return. It's tax-free. Other episodes in this series of 5 will show you how to do that, okay? And I'm going to give you actual examples. So these are called strategic rollouts. It's a 3-part strategy I designed years ago. You don't have to employ all 3. The first one is to strategically reposition your retirement funds, subjecting them to taxes now rather than thinking that taxes in the future will be lower, okay? And you don't postpone. You get the taxes over and done with in today's lower rates because your current tax bracket is likely the lowest bracket you will ever be in. When you realize that, you need to do this. Now, the second part of the strategy is what do you do with this money? You don't need to take money out of the 401k to live on, but you want to get it out and get the taxes over with, so where do you put the net? You reposition the after-tax monies into investment vehicles that are tax-free from now on. I prefer the only one that not only accumulates tax-free safely, but actually blossoms when you die. So that if you happen to die and you leave behind $1 million, maybe it blossoms to $2 million, and that extra $1 million reimburses you many-fold the taxes you paid when you rolled it out in step 1. Okay? Now, the third part of this, not everybody utilizes this, but I'm a tax strategist. And I just can't help helping people understand how to do this. You offset some or all of the tax liability that is incurred by maybe resurrecting some deductions you've been killing. And people go, what are you talking about? I'll show you. Or maybe continue to earn tax-free interest on what you paid in tax. And people go, say what? That's disclosed in the book. So folks, this is an example that I'll sort of connect the dots. This article came out, Mr. Tax to the Max versus Mrs. Iva Lot More. I came up with those clever names in the radio studio today in less than 10 minutes. And so I wrote an article about it. What was the essence of the article? It was saying, okay, here's Mr. Tax to the Max. Here's the assumptions. He's a 60-year-old male and has $500,000 in his IRAs and 401ks. Okay, now, the funds are earning 7.2%. Now, if you understand rule of 72 math, if he's earning 7.2%, which is fairly realistic for people who manage their money well, your money will double in 10 years, okay? So by doing that, this person does not intend to retire for another 10 years until he's age 70. What does he get told to do by his advisors, or what does he normally think? If I don't need the money, I can access it. I'm over age 59 and a half without a 10% penalty, but why would I touch it? His advisors, his CPA is saying, keep deferring. If you want to save tax in this given year, and then the next year in this given year, don't take anything out. Keep deferring. So what happens to the $500,000? It doubles to $1 million. It's still yet to be taxed. It's tax deferred. Now, some people say, well, look, he has $1 million now instead of $500,000. This guy's smart. Let me show you. This is what happened. He has $1 million at 7.2%. If he wanted to withdraw just the interest only, just to keep it simple, that's $72,000 a year. This guy, a tax bracket, caused him to pay tax on $72,000, and he only netted $43,000. That's a 27% tax bracket. It was his tax bracket between federal and state income tax. 41 out of 50 states has a state income tax. So he was netting $43,000 because this wasn't all of his money. He had more than this. So he was in, at that time, between federal and state, a 40% tax bracket. Many Californians are in much higher combined brackets than that. So he was really only able to buy gas and groceries with the remaining $43,000. So this is about a 40% bracket. So let's take it 20 years of his retirement to age 90. So from age 70 to age 90, this is what he's netting, okay? And so he had an income of $860,000, but because of that times 20 years, he is only really netting much less than that because of $580,000 he paid in tax every year. So he has the taxes over 20 years, he paid of $580,000. And he's going, wow, whose retirement was I planning? Mine or Uncle Sam's? Yeah, exactly. Now, if he died at age 90, if he hasn't been depleting his account, he's still going to leave behind $1 million to his heirs, and they're going to have to pay tax. If it's children and they liquidate that, they're going to have to pay, $400,000 in tax, and so these are the taxes due because it will send them to higher brackets. So he could potentially pay out almost $1 million in taxes. That's why I call him taxed to the max. Unfortunately, this story is very typical for many Americans who think postponing and delaying until age 72 and then taking RMDs is the smart advice. And then they calculate how much they're going to pay in tax. So if he were to do the distribution matching, okay, so that the amount of $72,000, in order to be able to match that, he would have to end up getting $120,000 of income, okay? $1 million runs out in 13 years if you pay $624,000 in tax. So in order to net 72, he'd have to pull out 120. You can look at his RMD calculation, and halfway through, all the way here actually to age 85, which was 5 years before, let's say he died at age 90. Okay, the net after tax was $828,000 was net after tax, because you have to pay tax and you have to take out more and more and more every year with RMDs. Okay, Mrs. Iva Lot More, she was exactly where Mr. Tax to the Max was at age 60, but she does a rollout. And so she rolls out 1/5, 20% of that $500,000 a year, $100,000 a year, into a max-funded tax advantage insurance contract for 5 years. Okay, so she pulls out about $114,000 a year because she's earning the same 7.2%. Okay, so she pays $30,000 a year in tax on that withdrawal. Each subsequent year at today's lower rates, okay? So all the taxes have been totally satisfied within 5 years. She paid 5 years of taxes, and I'll show you what that equals, about $150,000. So she got taxes over and done with in 5 years. Oh yeah, it hurt, but she got away with only paying $150,000 of tax. Because she put it all into a tax-free bucket, a LASERFund, it's all tax-free from this point forward. So at the same point in time, with the rollout strategy, she could experience double the net spendable income. At the most conservative projection, it was $86,000 a year tax-free versus $43,000, double what Tax to the Max had, okay? Which is $1,720,000 over 20 years. How would you like to have that much more money in retirement? Mrs. Iva Lot More has a lot more. So at age 90, she would still leave behind more than $600,000 tax-free at death to her heirs, not just the $400,000 after tax that Tax to the Max did. But she only has to pay $150,000 in tax, and she gets it over with in 5 years. Tax to the Max pays taxes the rest of his life. $980,000 in tax or $150,000 in tax. You choose. So folks, if you want to learn more how to do this, claim your free copy of this book, The LASERFund. You do that by going to laserfund.com or click on the link below. When you do that, you contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I cover the rest of that, and I will pay for the book. I'll fire out a hard copy to you. There's options there to listen and learn, watch and learn, check out the free webinars that we teach on a regular basis. And also, you can even schedule a time to talk to an IUL specialist to see how you can implement this in your life. And maybe you ought to perform a strategic rollout and have double the net spendable income.